Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my Corsair. In today's video I'll be giving you guys a bit more of an update on what I've been doing on this character as usual, and kind of catching you guys up on some of the things I got up to over the last week or so. I have done a few weekly bosses already. I am still being carried some of the bosses. As you can see here, I am doing Hard Dark Knell, Hard V Healer and Sea Gloom. These bosses are of course very important for me because they do have a chance of dropping me arcane boxes. And surprisingly for Hard V Healer, I did end up getting a armor box. It wasn't the ideal thing that I wanted to get because I'm still missing the arcane weapon. But with the arcane armor box, I don't actually have this part recorded. I did try to tap my existing arcane glove past 17, but unfortunately it did blow up, didn't even get to 18. And I did recover it back to 17 at some point, so unfortunately I didn't get to do too much with the armor box. As for the rest of the bosses, I didn't get anything too interesting, which is fine. I just wanted the chances of getting the armor boxes. I think my biggest disappointment in this particular week was the fact that I didn't actually get a slime ring. This will be, I think, the 4th week or so that I didn't manage to get the slime ring from the boss, which is, in my opinion, a little bit on the low roll side, but you can't really do much about that. Every time we've broken the box, we've had about 400% drop rate, and not seeing one within 4 weeks is a little bit sad, but there's not much we can do about it. Other than that though, we did find some places to make some gains. If you guys have been following my Corsair for a little bit, you will know that I've been doing a lot of Commercy recently. And the main reason why I've been doing Commercy is because I want the monocles and I want the Sweetwater tattoos. The Sweetwater monocles are going to be my damage gear of choice because I haven't gotten any Black Bean mark. I've been playing this character for about 4 weeks like I said, and I have not seen a single Black Bean mark from Pink Bean. One of the things that I've had issues with in Hyperion is that there aren't actually a lot of players that actually do CPQ, and as a result I do end up waiting a long time sometimes to be able to find another 2 people to run CPQ with. On this particular day I decided to cube and tap a bunch of random items. To start off, I went with my arcane gloves. For gloves, the main thing that you're aiming for is just simply to get 2 lines of crit damage. 2 lines of crit damage is more or less the equivalent of about 60% stat for a lot of players, and it is one of the best lines that you can get on gloves. It is a pretty significant gain, so I'm really happy that my gloves are done, and this was sort of the reason why I decided to tap my gloves afterwards and causing them to blow up. Again, not really much I could have done there. It didn't go on the 17 to 18 star, and that's fine. I also tried to tap a few items. I boomed a few belts, I ran out of spares, and that was that. There wasn't really anything too interesting going on there. I was kind of aiming to try to get a 20 star belt. This was because I had a spare superior belt that I didn't mind trying to send to 22, and if my photos blew up I didn't feel too bad about it because they are pretty plentiful. We get a lot of them from Pink Bean, and Golix has been mostly generous with giving us reinforced belts as well. After doing the CPQ, I decided to spend a little bit more money cubing as well. As of right now, I had some issues trying to do damage in Arcus, so I wanted to try to get better farming gear, things that I could Star Force a little bit further than 15 stars, and ideally better potentials as well. I decided to Star Force up both my Dominator pendant that I had a bunch spare of, and I also bought a Sweetwater tattoo from the Commercy shop. Both of these items can be Star Force past 15 for additional attack, which is what I did, and then I tried to give them a better potential while I farm. As I was queuing for the farming gear, my Dominator pendant ended up getting item drop plus a bunch of stat, which is amazing, and I tried to do something similar on my Sweetwater tattoo, and as I was looking for better lines, I accidentally managed to hit a double line item drop rate with all stat. This is probably one of the better lines that you can possibly get on farming gear. Not only do I get the additional drop rate, but I also got to keep an extra line of stat, which is amazing. And that pretty much wraps up all the things that I did while I was bored in Commercy. It probably wasn't the most productive use of Meso that I've had, but overall it was a reasonable gain that I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to farm a bit easier in the current area that I'm in Burning Cernium, and also kind of future-proofing myself for when I eventually go to Arcus as well. A few days after this, I did level up a few more times, and as you guys can see here, at level 267, I decided to go along with my guildies on a Black Mage run. I just wanted to get my Black Mage journey started so then I could start my liberation process, and as a bit of a bonus, I tried to see if I could get to Blue Dot. If I'm able to contribute at least 5% of the total damage, I'll be eligible for extra drops, and I really wanted the chances of getting ring boxes and arcane armor. I wasn't really sure if I had the damage to be able to Blue Dot in Black Mage just yet because not only am I under leveled, Black Mage being a level 275 boss and I'm only level 267, I am also extremely low on my arcane force. Still, I thought that with the damage that I had going into the boss fight, I believe I had about 43 mil combat power, I would have contributed enough over the 4 phases on a long enough run to be able to blue dot. I had to make sure to start a BA, of course, to check my damage, and I believe the damage required across the entire boss was about 23 trillion. The most important part that I needed to check was just how much damage my initial origin burst was. After the first minute or so, I had already managed to do about 8.5 trillion damage. Only one origin burst and I was already a third of the way there to blue dotting successfully in a black mage run, and thankfully the guys in my party were happy enough to more or less slow down in the run so then I could comfortably blue dot without accidentally losing out on the drops. Again, I wouldn't have really minded too if I just ended up as a red dot, but ideally I would like to be eligible for some of the drops. The run was relatively smooth. I really liked the gameplay that Corsair offers. There's only a few things that I wish that I knew before going into Black Mage on the Corsair. One of them being that I didn't realize that my up jump was actually quite short, and I had some issues jumping onto the platform that is in P3. But other than that, Corsair has like a really good kit to have a very safe burst. Half of it is iframes and the other half I'm basically ducked the entire time, so Black Mage can't actually hit me. On top of that, I have a 20-second cooldown iframe, so I'm able to avoid a lot of the really dangerous mechanics if I need to. By the time that I managed to get into P4, I had already done more or less enough damage to blue dot inside the boss. I just needed to make sure that I had a clean final origin burst, and that was enough for me to get drops for this boss. I'm very thankful to our guild leader and for Anil taking me on this boss. I didn't manage to get any arcane boxes, but I did get a white ring box, which has a really good chance of getting strong special rings. Ideally at this point I was looking for either a weapon jump 3 or weapon jump 4, and unfortunately I had a bit of a suffering from success moment where I got a ring of restraint 3. Typically for most characters it is actually quite a good ring to get, but because of the fact that I already had a raw 4 from an earlier boss, it didn't really give me any improvements. But still, being able to get the Black Mage run in was really nice, and thank you so much Boy and Anil for taking me along in these runs. After the Black Mage run, we did have our weekly reset and I ran through a bunch of my bosses. I didn't manage to get anything too interesting. I didn't get any pitch boss or any arcane boxes, but I did notice that my damage was more or less about the same. Now that the event buffs have gone away, I was still able to do most of my bosses with no problem. Lotus and Damien both went down within about 20 minutes together, and for Lucid and Will, I was still able to complete them fairly easily. Without too much hassle, I did almost actually time out in my hard Lucid run, but overall I was able to finish my bosses with relative ease. The only gain that I managed to get at some point was I did end up getting a superior earring drop. I did actually end up 21 starring a reinforced earring, and being able to transfer that onto a superior earring was quite a nice gain. I am only at this point one item away from having my full 4-set superior, and I'm looking forward to that a lot because the 4-set superior is quite powerful. After all those gains and doing most of my bosses, one of the things I really wanted was my arcane weapon. The arcane weapon at this point was only possible for me to get if I do the C10 bosses. At this point my duo was a little bit busy, and I figured I didn't have anything to lose on this character trying out to see if I could solo some of the C10 bosses. And the first thing that I went ahead and tried to do was Chaos Gloom. Chaos Gloom has a relatively similar difficulty in terms of damage compared to Hard Will, and I already knew that I could solo Hard Will. Technically speaking, Chaos Gloom is an easy boss for me to clear. The only thing I had to worry about was staying alive throughout the whole fight and making sure that I do my burst properly for each time that the eye opens. Thankfully for Corsair, we have a very good kit for dealing with a boss like Gloom. The Scurvy summons are really good at blocking statuses. I have a really short cooldown iframe so I can avoid most of the dangers during darkness. And of course, thanks to the Raw 4, it helps me a lot during the bursts so that I can do quite a lot of damage during the small window that is available for us to do damage. I went inside this boss with 42 mil combat power. We were missing event buffs, and ideally I would have done this before the event went away, but I wasn't actually sure that I was able to clear this boss. Thanks to the relatively simple nature of Chaos Gloom, I didn't have too much trouble doing damage to the boss. Again, I was just mostly focused on trying to sync up my burst correctly, that way every time that the eye opened up I'd be able to do as much damage as possible. And I really had to abuse the fact that Raw 4 is a very powerful tool in a boss like this, where it is very burst concentrated. I was actually able to clear this boss actually pretty quickly. It took me about 18 minutes to get the clear onto Chaos Gloom, and realistically it could have been a little bit faster if I knew how to play my class a bit better. I feel like I messed up a burst here and there, and I definitely messed up the very end of the boss where I decided to do a weird half burst for some reason. I wasn't really sure why I did that. But hey, we managed to get the clear, and unfortunately I did not get an armor box or an arcane box, but that is fine. Another milestone down on this Corsair, and I'm very happy knowing that this is the level that my Corsair is currently at. But this of course brought up the question, how much further can I take this character? Do I need to gain much more to be able to solo hard V healer? For most of my characters, hard V healer is the end goal. If I can solo hard V healer, that means that this character can eventually liberate without any problems, and I'll be also able to get quite a lot of money each week from the character as well. Thankfully, because I've been training this character for so long, so I did actually have a lot of healing fams. Healing fams are kind of the reason why I'm actually able to clear hard V healer with relative ease on a lot of my characters. I'm not actually very good at dodging the mechanic, and having a lot of large healing fams helps out a lot. I wasn't sure if I was actually able to clear this boss because she is quite tanky. It would be a pretty long run, so I wasn't sure if I could even mechanically survive the boss. But I had the things ready to go. I had large healing fams and I had a Raw 4, and those two things are probably the main reason why I would be able to clear. I just needed to play clean in the fight and focus up and not take too many lives if I could help it. The first thing I obviously had to check was just how much damage I did within the first 3 minutes. If I couldn't do at least 10% of the boss within the first 3 minutes, then it is probably not clearable. I would time out no matter what. Thankfully, it only took about 2 minutes for me to do 10% of the boss, so at this point I realized that even if I was playing it really safe, I had about a 3 or 4 minute leniency to be able to clear hard V healer, assuming I didn't die out. As long as I stayed on the boss, kept my summons up, made sure to keep debuffing her, and also of course to stay alive and cleanse correctly, I should be able to have a pretty comfortable clear on hard V healer. It started off a little bit difficult for me because I was still kind of getting used to the movement around in the boss. I was taking a lot of damage from things like the corpses on the floor, and later on as well, I got hit by a lot of mechanics which got me caught by the strings many times. Getting caught by the strings is not ideal because it does stun you for a little bit, and then you have to focus on trying to cleanse, which overall reduces the damage that you do to the boss. But I made sure to kind of play it safe. Even though I had a little bit of a tight timing to clear the boss, playing it safe was a bigger priority for me. It was a bit of a grueling fight. I think I actually ended up losing a skull at some point because I didn't cleanse on time, which is okay though because we ended up on 4 skulls, which is more than enough to clear comfortably. It took me about 27 minutes to clear. To be honest, I'm a little surprised I was actually able to get through it. She is a very tanky boss, and I feel like I definitely got carried by my Ring of Restraint 4. I'm sure many of you guys who have been watching these videos might be thinking the same thing, like the fact that I have a Ring of Restraint 4 makes it a lot easier for me to clear the bosses, and if it wasn't for this ring, I'd definitely have to compensate either with more levels and more hexa, or perhaps I needed to get a few more stars. I am kind of rushing into a lot of these bosses, despite not having an arcane weapon or 4 set superior, but I am just kind of abusing the fact that Ring of Restraint 4 is so powerful. After clearing hard V healer, about a few days later, I managed to hit level 270 on this Corsair. And here we are, caught up to the present. I finished up my Odium prequest not too long ago, and now we are actually properly caught up on everything on this Corsair. It is kind of nice being able to talk live now and not have to go through commentary on past videos. So hopefully you guys were okay with me kind of going through a lot of past clips, especially because most of it was actually from on stream as well. The first thing that I wanted to share with you guys was a few of the things I've done recently in between the time that I cleared hard V healer and now. We did have a Star Force event recently, and the only gain that I managed to get from it was this 22 star superior Golix belt. It is a solid gain over what my previous belt was. It does have a decent flame, and it also has 3 lines of stat on it. I mentioned earlier that this character has kind of hit the goals that I've wanted, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that right now as well. Again, I wanted to make sure that this character could solo hard V healer as comfortably as possible. Given the fact that I can only get stronger from this point with my Hexer and slowly waiting for some items to drop, I was already able to clear hard V healer within about 27 minutes. And once I get a few more items, I will be able to clear the boss within about 20 minutes very comfortably. As much as I would like to progress this character forward a little bit more, it has hit a little bit of a wall where I have to wait a while to make any gains. This slime ring is a good example of why I'm having a little bit of trouble progging on this character. The only things left over for my Corsair to get stronger are things that are either time gated or are drop gated. Twilight marks and slime rings are two items, for example, where I'm just waiting every week and hoping for items to drop, so I can't really make much progress there without risking some stars. I am also still waiting for my superior items. I don't have a superior Golix ring at the moment, and I'm just still building up the coins. It will take me about another week or so to finally get my superior ring, and even then I still need to do some prep for it that I am a little bit gated on. I have been trying to push my Meister rings, and as you guys can see here, I've had some issues trying to push some rings from the previous event. I have made some more, and I definitely have more materials to make more Meister rings for the superior. Again, I'm just still waiting for the coins. As for the rest of my equips, I again am waiting for an arcane weapon, and I am also waiting for more arcane drops. All these things I can't really speed up, and the only way I can prog on this character is just simply by leveling it up. And that is kind of where I'm having some troubles with. After training this character to level 270 and clearing hard V healer, I am really happy with the progress. And knowing that all I have to do now on this character for it to be stronger is to wait, that is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to actively train on this character for a little bit because I will be waiting on some drops, and perhaps once I can give it some more resources and some more damage, I might try to progress it to another level. Thank you everyone for all the support you've been giving me. I hope you guys have enjoyed the videos I've been producing and also the streams I've been doing every day. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It helps me out a lot. And if you guys want to see more from me, please consider subscribing to the channel. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one.